What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and we are just over 1 week away from the start of training camp. I cannot wait. The New York Giants hitting the practice field shortly after that, putting the pads back on, and then right around the corner, preseason, and before you know it, the regular season is here. It's less than 2 months away. In fact, I think it's actually exactly 2 months away from the start of the regular season. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of exciting stuff all throughout the year for the New York Giants. Hopefully they have a good season, but if they have a good season, it's going to be reliant on a few key players, one of those being stalwart left tackle Andrew Thomas, the elite blindside protector that we all know and love. What are our expectations for him this upcoming season? Now, if you didn't see, ESPN recently did a series of rankings where they interviewed a bunch of different executives, coaches, and scouts all across the NFL, and then compiled all those surveys to make a top 10 ranking of each player at each position in the NFL. Andrew Thomas came in at OT number 8, the 8th best offensive tackle in the NFL. So we kind of want to react to that and discuss whether we think that's too high, too low, maybe it's just fair. And we also want to discuss Andrew Thomas, our expectations for him coming off of a 2023 season where he missed 7 weeks due to a hamstring injury. And honestly, he's been banged up throughout his career. Now, he's always played at a high level, hasn't missed a lot of time due to injury until last season, but has been playing through injuries. So we just kind of want to discuss Andrew Thomas, any injury concerns potentially, and again, react to his ranking on the top 10 list. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what is your reaction to Andrew Thomas coming in at number 8 on the offensive tackle rankings?
I'm doing pretty good. And listen, Andrew Thomas, I think 8 is fine. Why? Because he has the upside to be 1, 2, 3, right? He's that good. He just has had some injury issues in the past. And man, what really grinds my gears? You wonder what kind of injuries really piss me off? The ones that aren't necessary. The injuries that happen because I don't even remember what happened. I think a field goal was blocked and he was chasing down a defensive back and he hurts his hamstring and it was never the same the whole season. Those are the type of injuries that piss me off because they are injuries that should never have happened. And it happened in week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys to make matters even worse. Thomas played through injury. He dealt with injury. He's been injured every season. He's kind of dealt with the pain and survived it and played really, really at a high level most of the time. But these dumb injuries that happen on blocked field goals and Andrew, man, and look, if I'm Joe Shane, I'm Brian, whoever, Brian Dable, anyone, I'm telling him, if you see a defensive back running it back on a field goal, don't try and chase him down. You're not going to catch him. You're just going to get yourself hurt. Look, it's not about a lack of effort. It's about being smart. And smart would suggest you don't ask a 300-pound human being to chase down a 190-pound human being because you're never going to freaking get him. So I appreciate the effort from Andrew Thomas. Don't get me wrong, but we need him. That one moment is not going to define the season. Losing him could define the season. He's hauling ass downfield. I'm like, dude, you don't run like that. No one ever asks you to run like that. Why would you be running like that? So the dumb field goal blocks, play disciplined football, clean football. Injuries tend to avoid themselves because of it. Now, there are freak things that happen. It happens to every single team, every single week. But I can recall another really stupid one that happened that really pissed me off, and it's the one that happened to Nick Gates. Remember when Billy Price, who was literally an incompetent player at center, was getting absolutely wrecked, and he got pushed right back into Daniel Jones' lap, and then he ends up falling on Nick Gates' leg? Incompetence, dumb performance, bad players. That's what leads to injury. Incompetence, mistakes, lack of discipline, and bad talent. These all things compound into injury-prone players. And look, like I said, freak things happen. Naturally, players are going to get hurt in the NFL, but you can avoid them by being a freaking good team. Why do you think these good teams tend to stay healthy? Because they're not beating themselves. They're not getting injured on their own by making mistakes. So, I think that Andrew Thomas can avoid injury just by the Giants not shooting themselves in the freaking foot every single season. That would go a long way for me. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that kind of perspective, but of course you can't avoid them, but there's a good way to avoid the probable injuries that happen by just not making so many mistakes.
No, I mean, listen, injuries are part of the game. every player that steps into the NFL is going to deal with an injury at one point or another. Even Eli Manning never missed a start. He had off-season surgeries. He got injured at times. He played through injuries, of course. It's an injury league. Like, everybody's going to get hurt. So you can't really blame Andrew Thomas or the Giants for having a lot of injuries throughout their careers or throughout a season. But I think you make a good point, and to kind of like paraphrase what you're saying, bad teams aren't bad because they have so many injuries. Bad teams have so many injuries because they are bad. That's kind of the way that you need to look at it. And I think the Billy Price example and Nick Gates example was perfect. They had a really bad center lined up. He got bulldozed, put right into Nick Gates' leg, broke his leg, almost ended his career. Bad players put themselves into bad situations, which then hurt the team on the field and sometimes get those players actually hurt. Even, I remember, I think it was his second season in the league, maybe his third, when Saquon Barkley had one of those ankle sprains. He was running like a slant route across the middle of the field, and the ball was inaccurate, and then he stepped on someone's foot, and he sprained his ankle. A bad ball caused him to get hurt. It wasn't like he got hit by a player dirty or anything like that. It was literally bad football was the product of an injury, and it so often is. So for the Giants to maintain their health this season, they have to be better. Andrew Thomas chasing down a blocked kick gets hurt. Bad football leads to bad injuries. So the Giants just need to be better, and they will be healthier if they are better. The best teams in the league, like you said, Alex, are the healthiest teams in the league, and it's not because they're the healthiest that they're the best. It's because they're the best that they're healthy, and that's ultimately what it is at the end of the day. But for Andrew Thomas coming in at number 8 on these rankings, my initial reaction is that's fair. And when you read what was wrote on that excerpt about him ranking number 8, you'll see that there were actually some scouts who had him ranked number 1. Some view him as the top offensive tackle in the NFL. Now, also, his lowest ranking was unranked, so some had him outside of the top 10. But there is a variance here with Andrew Thomas, and I think that's due to a few factors. First of all, he plays for the New York Giants. The Giants haven't been a good team. So when you think of the best players in the league, you don't think of the worst teams in the league and then their best players. You think of the best teams. You immediately go, okay, Chiefs, you go Niners, you go Eagles, you go these best teams that are perennially in the postseason. You think of their best players. So that probably hurts Andrew Thomas in the rankings somewhat. But I think the other thing that's really held him back has been injuries. Even his rookie season, I don't think he missed much time with that injury, the ankle injury that he had, but in the offseason, he was recovering from it. Year 2, ankle injury was nagging him again. He had surgery the following offseason. The healthiest season that we got from Andrew Thomas was 2022, and it was easily the best season that we got from Andrew Thomas. There is a correlation there. You can also say the same thing about Daniel Jones. The healthiest season that we got from him was 2022. That was the best season that we got from him. And also, it's correlated that Andrew Thomas's best season also correlates with Daniel Jones's best season. So it's all related to each other. Andrew Thomas staying healthy is one of the biggest factors that will contribute towards the Giants' success this upcoming season. We've seen a lot of bad offensive line play. And the Giants' offensive line looked like trash in week 1 of last season, right? Daniel Jones was under constant duress. Giants got blown out at home on primetime versus the Cowboys. We all remember it, even though we'd like to forget it. But when Andrew Thomas had to leave the lineup, things went from bad to worse. And for the subsequent 7 weeks that he wasn't in the lineup, it went from worse to even worse. It was terrible. The Giants ended up surrendering 85 sacks last season, and they had a revolving door at left tackle. Josh Azidu was there. Justin Pugh was there. They couldn't figure out what they wanted to do at the left tackle spot without Andrew Thomas. So in order for this offense to find success this season, for Daniel Jones to actually stand comfortably in the pocket and hit Malik Neighbors on those go balls, it really does rely on the offensive line, and more so than anything, it relies on the blindside protector, Andrew Thomas. Again, we all know how great he is, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit more, Alex, talk about how he's a weapon not only as a pass protector, but even as a run blocker, how they design plays for Andrew Thomas, right? He is an absolute weapon in this offense in some ways. But this offense is only going to be as good as Andrew Thomas is healthy at the end of the day.
Well, I can say one thing. He scored just as many touchdown passes as Kenny Galladay for the Giants, so there's that. But, you're right. Look, Andrew Thomas is one of the best offensive tackles in football for a reason, and he's done it on an island, right? He's done it with absolutely zero support. Ben Bredesen, average on a good day, right? Volatile, no longer even on this team. You have John Runyon now probably going to be playing left guard. So now you finally have a player with above average pass protection qualities, and Runyon can hopefully develop some chemistry there. But Andrew Thomas has been great, not because the guy next to him has been helping him at all whatsoever. He's been great because he's been on an island by himself, like freaking Tom Hanks in Castaway, him in a freaking volleyball, taking on all the best pass rushers in football, right? That's what Andrew Thomas has been doing. That's what's made him so great, is because he's done it by himself. And you look at some of these other really great offensive tackles, and, for what it's worth, they're phenomenal, but they have good talent around them, like good guards, like good communication, good quarterbacks. Andrew Thomas has been great despite all of those things. In spite of all those things, not despite, but in spite of all those things. It's really a unique situation. If the Giants get better, if their offensive line gets better, the communication gets better, John Michael Schmitz gets better, the wide receivers get open, Daniel Jones performs better, Andrew Thomas is not only going to be as good as he's been, he's going to have his best year, and he's going to be elite. He's going to be top 3 in the league. That's genuinely how I feel. And as a run blocker, he's been just as good. I mean, think about it. You have different offensive guards every single week playing alongside you. Now you have a guy in Devin Singletary whose style is vastly different than that in Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley was always looking for the home run. So a lot of times, even if Andrew Thomas was out there blocking, he would try to bounce it outside, dance around, and Saquon Barkley was great for that. But Devin Singletary is going to see that gap and shoot it. He's not going to dance around. He is a get upfield and, churn out those extra yards. Guys like Andrew Thomas love that because, he's going to open up those lanes for him, and he's going to be able to capitalize pretty nicely. So I do think that Singletary is going to be a nice running back for this team. Obviously, he's not Saquon, and you love Saquon for the dancing and the big home run runs, but sometimes it's not sustainable in an offense that doesn't really block that well. So I do think the Giants have a little bit better of a situation going on just because of the talent they've brought in and the style they're trying to run. But I do think this also depends on Daniel Jones understanding pre-snap what's happening, understanding the coverages, understanding the pass rush. Your offense is only as good as your quarterback pre-snap, really, because if you don't know what the opposing defense is trying to do, if you don't know what they're running at you, or you don't even have an idea, you've already lost that rep before it started. Of course, the post-snap stuff is equally as important in terms of reading the coverages and getting through your progressions at a natural pace. But Andrew Thomas is going to be fine on his own. And as long as the Giants don't do anything dumb and, have mistakes and inconsistencies and volatility in their game, he will stay healthy for the most part. He can play through some pain. We've seen him do it before. It's just the freak stuff that should not be happening has been happening to this team for years. It's time to finally play disciplined football. It's time to do your job. Like, all we're asking is just do your job. And don't try to overcompensate. A lot of these Giants players have tried to overcompensate and get hurt because of it. And I think now is a chance just to trust each other, like develop some chemistry. I like John Runyan. I think he's a really low-key good signing for us. $10 million per season for a guy who's an above-average pass protector at left guard and everybody undervalued. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be fine. He's not the best run blocker on earth, but we just need to have a competent passing game for once. Like, that's really where it starts. So I do think this season should be and could be one of the best for Andrew Thomas. He could end up becoming a top 3 guy on these rankings. But 8 for now, I'm okay with, because he hasn't stayed healthy, and you have to factor that into the equation, in my opinion.
I agree. It does need to be factored into the equation. And like you said, he has a potential to be top 3. In fact, I want to read the excerpt from that ESPN article that an anonymous AFC executive had to say about Andrew Thomas. And they said, where's the quote? They said, quote, "Trent Williams has been the standard, but I think Thomas, if he puts together a stronger body of work, has enough upside to be the top guy." That's really high praise. It's coming from outside of the conference, an AFC executive front office member saying that Andrew Thomas could have Trent Williams' potential and be the standard at the offensive tackle position. So that's enough to get Giants fans excited, I would assume, and got me excited. And I think that the obvious potential is there for Andrew Thomas, and the evidence of him potentially becoming that top guy is also there. When you look at his career and you look at what he's accomplished so far, again, it's been tremendous. I think he allowed, 4 sacks in 2022 and like 20 pressures across over 1,000 snaps. He's still putting in 1,000 snaps. My only problem with Thomas is just that 300 of those snaps are probably injured snaps. Like, I just wish that he could stay a little bit healthier, but I also have to give him plenty of praise and credit for playing through so many injuries throughout his career. So I think that Andrew Thomas, again, we've kind of exhausted the conversation at this point, how important he is to the offense, but there is the other factor of who's playing opposite of him, who's playing alongside him. The Giants' offensive line can go far because of Andrew Thomas. It can be a middling unit, league average unit, because it has one of the best offensive tackles on the left side. But across the rest of the line, it's going to hold us back unless we see big steps taken forward by John Michael Schmitz. I think that's a big one, probably one that we're not talking about enough. John Michael Schmitz played injured last year as well, played really poorly last year as well, was one of the worst centers in the NFL according to the data. Is he going to improve in year 2? He kind of needs to. What about Evan Neal? Big question mark. Is he going to be better at right tackle? Is he going to move inside the guard? Where's Jermaine Illuminor playing? All of these question marks that we have on this Giants offensive line. If we could just get 3 starters on this offensive line other than Andrew Thomas to play at an average level, you got Thomas who's elite and then 3 average starters, and then sure, maybe one of the guys just doesn't play well. But if you get 3 average starters plus Thomas, you're talking about at least a middling unit in the NFL, and that's really all you need to become a competitive team. If you just have league average offensive line play, you could probably start winning a lot more games than the Giants have been in recent years, so long as the playmakers and quarterback do their job. So this is such a team sport. It's so dependent one position on another, but the offensive line is no different. The left tackle is going to depend on those other guys, and the offensive line is going to be a place of dependency for the quarterback and these other players as well. So it's going to be really important. But Alex, before we wrap this up, as we get close to training camp, again, we're just a week away. Of course, we know Andrew Thomas is going to show up and he's going to show out at training camp. But who along that offensive line, again, I'm pinpointing John Michael Schmitz as maybe having more pressure than people realize on his shoulders this year. But who else along that offensive line are you kind of looking at as we get into training camp saying, okay, I need to see them take some strides so that we can feel comfortable going into the regular season?
I mean, yeah, JMS is like the obvious like kind of link here because he's the one communicating the information, kind of setting everybody up pre-snap, and that communication is essential. He was known for his football IQ. That's what he's known for, and I think that that's what will shine. But he also was put through the ringer too, man. He had an injury every week. He had different offensive guards. How do you develop a chemistry with anybody as a rookie with no experience? I feel bad for the guy. People talking smack about JMS. Guys, like, come on. You're giving him shit? Like, of all people? He's the one that had, like, different guards every single week. He was dealing with an injury himself. He was a rookie in a system that was falling apart with a different quarterback that he had no idea who they were. Man, he was snapping, looking behind him. Who the hell's that? You know what I mean? Like, how do you expect anyone to succeed that way? It's like going to a job and them not telling you how to do it and just sitting there at your desk being like, yeah, it's like, what do I do now? That's basically what JMS went through last year. I will sit here gladly say, if we say that version of JMS again, I'll be very surprised. I think we're going to see a much better player this upcoming year. But yes, he is the obvious choice to improve. I mean, of course, the second obvious one is Evan Neal. He's got to take substantial, not just small, not medium, not even large, substantial steps forward in the right direction. The performance we've seen from him has been nothing short of bust caliber. And, you're looking at the injury-prone stuff going on now. He hasn't even started training as of like 2 weeks ago. This is really bad, like really, really bad if you're the Giants trying to get maximum value out of a player you spent the 8th overall pick on like 2 years ago. Jermaine Illuminor, that's my right tackle right now. That's his job to lose, in my opinion. Evan Neal has to earn the starting right tackle job. Jermaine Illuminor is a above average right tackle right now on day one in a system he already understands with Carmen Brasillo being his former coach. That is the obvious choice to start there. If Evan Neal wins that job, all the best to him. But Jermaine Illuminor, you see what he says online. He's, I love the Giants. I want to be the best. I want to be the best player here. He wants this, man. Meanwhile, Evan Neal's calling us sheep and stuff. So, I don't really get the same emotional response from those two guys in terms of like who I really want to win that job. I want Jermaine Illuminor. He wants to be a Giant. He wants to put in the work. Evan Neal, we have not seen that from him. And he certainly hasn't like been humble about the criticism. And, it's part of being a Giant, man. You're going to get criticized. If you can't handle the smoke, like, get out of the fire. So I do think that Evan Neal has a lot to prove. I'm not saying he's gonna ultimately be a bust at the end of the day, but for now, I don't consider him the starter. I consider him a competitor. And right now, it's Jermaine Illuminor's job to lose, in my opinion, because he is the better player, and the Giants think their best players playing every single week.
Totally agree with you. In my opinion, there's only 2 spots on this offensive line that have been solidified so far. It's left tackle is Andrew Thomas, duh. And it's center John Michael Schmitz, just because he's going into year 2. We still have high hopes for him, and they don't really have anyone else to compete for that job. But left guard, and right tackle, it feels like there's competitors all over the place. I wouldn't pin down any one of those spots as having a solidified starter just yet. And that's why I'm so excited for next week, training camp, breaking it all down, reacting to all the different tidbits of information and pieces of news that we get for you right here on Fireside Giants. It's going to be a lot of fun, so stay tuned. And make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.